Today we're going to be making a chicken penne Alfredo recipe in the Instant Pot. We're using the same cookbook from last week called the Ultimate Instant Pot Cookbook. We've gotten a lot of great recipes out of here. I haven't tried this one before, but with this time off we decided we'd try something new. We don't typically make such a heavy meal for meal prep, but with this one we will eat it probably for lunch so that we're not eating something so heavy before we go to bed. So let's go ahead and get started. So you see the ingredients. We've got chicken broth, you'll need grated Parmesan, we've got the whole grain penne pasta. You can buy regular penne if you prefer. We've got some garlic. I bought the 1/3 fat cream cheese. We've got some heavy cream. And then we've got our seasonings, nutmeg, Italian, and then you'll also need some salt and pepper. Back here, you'll see I've got 2 pounds of chicken cut up, ready to go in 1-inch little squares. I've also got butter already in the Instant Pot. Again, something I don't normally cook with unless I'm baking, but the recipe called for it and I don't want to mess it up before it begins. So let's get started. So the first thing you'll need, so I'm making a double batch of this, so everything that I have is going to be twice the amount of the recipe. So first, with the cream cheese, let me say, this is supposed to be room temperature. You find a lot of times when you're baking that things are supposed to be room temperature and you don't realize it until you go to actually bake the dessert or the bread, whatever it may be. Well, luckily with this, the cream cheese won't be used until the end, so after it's done cooking. So it's been sitting out for about 10 minutes now while I got everything prepared, and it'll continue to sit out while this cooks. So if you forget, you can go ahead and cook it and just leave it sit out. So the first thing we need to do is set this to saute. So I'm going to move some of these items out of the way. So we can set this to saute. So we'll just set it to saute. It does ask for a time for the saute, but as long as you have it on, for at least 10 minutes, you should get what you need out of it. I do like to make sure I've got all my ingredients ready to go. So I've got my chicken broth pre-measured, got the garlic ready to go, as well as my seasoning. You can see the Italian, nutmeg, salt and pepper in there. Got my heavy cream, my Parmesan cheese, ready to go. So saute, setting, and melt the butter. So I've put 4 tablespoons of butter. Oh, that's a lot. In the bottom of here. Maybe next time I'll try oil, depending what I think. And then once we do that, we're gonna add the garlic. It calls for 1 garlic clove, but like you saw last week and in the preview of the ingredients, I just buy the garlic that's ready to go in the jar. So I have about 2 cloves in my little container ready to go. Then we'll add the chicken, all of our seasonings, and saute it for 5 more minutes. So how much of each seasoning? So for Italian seasoning, I've got 2 teaspoons. I have 1 teaspoon of salt. I have 1 teaspoon of pepper, half a teaspoon of nutmeg. So they always say at the end, season it with more salt if that's what you prefer. I'm gonna move this butter around a little bit. It also helps if your butter's soft. You never want to take it right out of the freezer. Just takes a little bit longer to melt. I didn't use oil or coconut oil as a substitute because I'm assuming the butter has to do with the creaminess of the Alfredo sauce because we're making our own. We are not buying a jarred Alfredo sauce, which I'm really excited about. I don't mind jarred Alfredo sauce, but sometimes it lacks a little flavor. Sometimes it feels like I'm just eating straight fat. So this is interesting. All right, so we've got the butter in here. I'm gonna go ahead and add my garlic. You can hear it into the butter. don't know if y'all can hear it, but I certainly can. All right. So it says for about a minute. Just give it a little mix up. Oh, it already smells good. You want to make sure that the garlic does not burn to the bottom of the Instant Pot. A lot of times whenever you're cooking like a one-pot meal and you do the saute function first, you can get the burn error whenever you actually go to pressure cook it. And then you have to open it, try to scrape it off and restart it. Because the reason that happens is because when you're sauteing, your garlic or your onions, whatever it may be, is getting burnt to the bottom and getting those brown bits. So while we like the brown bits, whenever you actually go to pressure cook it, it then just burns. So you want to make sure you prevent that. So next up, we've got our garlic in there. It's been about a minute. We're going to add the chicken and all of the seasonings. So again, I have 2 pounds of chicken diced up, ready to go. Just dump it on in there. And then I'm also going to add my seasonings in here. So I'm going to break it up in here. Try to get it coated with the butter and the garlic. And then add my seasonings. Nice and evenly. I like to add a little layer and then mix it up. And then add the rest. Now I said this isn't something we would typically meal prep, but we are meal prepping today. So once this is done, I'm going to go ahead and divide it up into our meal prep containers. Let me show you what we're working with. So you can see the chicken is in there. We've got all of our seasoning. It's already starting to get some cooked edges. Now we want the chicken to be almost completely cooked through before we're adding the pasta. So in this case, we're gonna make sure that we're mixing it up, getting those different edges to touch the bottom of this Instant Pot pan. I used my 8-quart since I was doubling the recipe. If you were just doing a single recipe, you can easily use your 6-quart Instant Pot. Just wanted to make sure I didn't max it out. I doubled a recipe in my 6-quart recipe or my 6-quart Instant Pot last week, and I felt like it was a little too much. All right, so while that is sauteing, I'm just going to put a couple things away. All right, I don't know if you guys can see the steam, but we are working now. Give it a nice little mix up. I just realized that I had this basil, rustic basil pesto in the fridge. I think what I'm gonna do at the end is taste this, taste it when it's done. And then if I want to add some more flavor with the pesto, I do really like a pesto in my Alfredo when I occasionally have it. So I might add it in there. And that's something that you could just add in whenever you go to heat it up or eat it. But wow, this is smelling really good. All right, we're going to keep mixing it up. It says it should only take about 5 minutes, but It all depends on how much chicken you have. So we're going to keep working with it. So the pasta that we bought the whole grain penne. It calls for 8 ounces. So to double the recipe is easily 16 ounces. So I just needed 1 box. You could use another type of pasta if you wanted. All right, so that beeping you're hearing is our saute function is over. So I'm going to start it over. So I'm just gonna hit cancel. And start. Okay, and we're back. It also says it's sauteing on low. So I'm gonna go back to the saute. I'm gonna change that to high. Or I guess that's medium. There we go. Get a little bit more heat in there. No wonder it's taken so long. The nice thing about the Instant Pot is it's really easy to change directions whenever you're cooking. So you know, it's hard to burn something in here unless you're using the saute function. But at the same time, say you need a few minutes more on the saute, you can quickly just change that temperature or change that time. Alright, we're getting there. So what I was saying about the pasta, you could buy, you know, the regular white pasta if you would like that. You could probably use any other kind of pasta. I wouldn't advise probably spaghetti. Something that is small and will be kind of thick and have some body to it. So this is the penne pasta that we have. You can find it at your local Kroger. Alright, I'm just trying to make sure that I get enough cooked through that whenever we actually go to cook it, we won't come out with any raw chicken. The cook time on this is really short. It's only 5 minutes, but you have to remember that doesn't count the time it takes to come to pressure. So the pressure time on this is probably going to be about 15 to 20 minutes, and then we're going to let it cook, and then we're going to let it naturally release for 5 minutes. So here we go. If you ever are cooking like just chicken and you're not really sure about how much time, I usually do about 18 minutes for 3 to 4 pounds of chicken breast, solid chicken breast, you know, cut up like this. It won't take as much time. But if you're cooking it and you open it up and you slice into it and you say, oh, that's definitely not cooked, you can really easily just put it back on and give it another 5 minutes. All right, so let me take a look, give you a look at what this looks like. So here we have our chicken. You can see most of it is cooked on the edges. So now what we're gonna do is we are going to add our pasta. So with the pasta, you wanna try to get a nice even layer on top. So I'm just gonna pour it in. There we go. I will use my wooden spoon to make sure it's nice and flat on top. And then this is when we are going to pour the chicken broth. So I have 4 cups of chicken broth here. So just going nice and around, trying to get an even layer in here. Here we go. Show you what this looks like before we put the lid on. All right, so we want to get that pasta in there in a nice even layer. And then when we pour that broth in it, we want to try to get as much of it submerged as possible. Okay, so I'm going to put my lid on. This one auto seals. And then we will go to the front and we're going to pressure cook on high or manual for 5 minutes. So let's get to pressure cook for 5 minutes. Oops, that's too long. Patience. Okay. 5 minutes on high, and this one I hit start on the 6 quart, it just goes. So we're gonna let it come to pressure for about 15-20 minutes, cook for 5 minutes, and then you'll let it naturally release for 5 minutes. And then we'll come back and finish it off. All right, so we let it naturally release for 5 minutes, and now I'm going to force the pressure. Probably take a couple of minutes. I've also got my meal prep containers out. I've got my food scale. I'm ready to go. Now, normally we measure pasta separately from protein. So I'll have to see what this looks like whenever it comes out. Got all kinds of pressure in there. I do sometimes let it naturally release for a little bit longer just because it makes the chicken more tender if you do that. But I did not wait. Almost there. So it'd take about 2 minutes. All right, got that float valve. I'm gonna open it up. Here we go. I like to take the pot out to work in it. So you can see pasta's still on top and nice and cooked. I'm gonna use our spoon to mix it all up now. All right, you're gonna have some liquid in the bottom from that chicken broth. That's okay, but what I'm doing right now is I'm really just getting it nice and mixed up. Wearing glasses, sometimes not conducive to steam. Getting it nice and mixed up so you can see all the chicken in there. It smells really good. All right, so now we're gonna add our cream cheese, our Parmesan cheese, and our heavy cream. So it calls for 4 ounces of cream cheese. So we're doubling the recipe, remember? So I've got 8 ounces of this 1/3 less fat cream cheese. Not sure if the less fat is gonna affect it negatively, but I think we'll be okay. All right, we'll pour that cream. As well as our Parmesan cheese. So the cream was 1/2 cup. So it calls for 1/4 cup. We're doubling the recipe, we got 1/2 cup. It calls for 1/2 cup of grated Parmesan cheese. We have 1 cup. We're gonna add it all in there. And we're just gonna mix this up. So you wanna mix it up really well. Allow it to thicken. It sounds really sloshy. It's kind of weird. I recommend using one of these spoons that's meant for pasta. It's got the kind of the teeth on the end of it. Lets you get a hold of it a little bit easier. So now that it's mixed in there, you just want to let it sit for a couple minutes. Let it thicken up. So I'm going to let this sit for about, we'll say about 5 minutes. And then we'll come back and see what we've got. All right, so I ended up waiting almost 20 minutes actually for this to thicken. So if we look at it now, you can see it's got some, movement to it. It's not slappy like soup. I think 20 minutes was a good route. Now, if you're meal prepping though, you don't necessarily have to wait if you're not gonna eat it right away. I did also add 3 tablespoons of that pesto. I really liked the idea of putting that in here, and I had some to use. So this says that one batch has 4 servings. So I have 8 meal prep containers out because we did make a double batch, so theoretically we should be able to get 8 servings. However, like I said last week, you know, serving sizes are always a little bit different whenever you're looking at in books or ordering from restaurants. Sometimes, you know, the ingredients or the recipe is quoting less servings than what you would normally eat, and then when you go to a restaurant you get a lot more food than you would normally eat. So we're gonna find our happy medium here. Make sure you get some pasta and chicken in every scoop. What I'm gonna do is, I know about where I normally fill this container for Simon, so I'm gonna do that. I think that looks good. That's about 15 ounces, so I think that's what I'm gonna give him. So we'll do another one for him. Now it is going to vary a little bit, you know, how much protein did you get in every single one, how many carbs and fat did you get in every single one, because we're measuring it all together instead of separately. That's okay, it doesn't have to be perfect. Just trying to get back to that 15 ounces. Alright, so we got his. Now we'll do a couple for me. I'm going to do my typical size container. Gives me a good visual so I know where it normally is at. It does look really good. It was really easy actually. The only thing I really had to prep was the chicken. If I wasn't doing it for y'all, I wouldn't have had everything pre-measured like that, but it does make it really easy. Once you get everything pre-measured, ready to go, you can just kind of dump and go. Alright, so that's almost 13 ounces for me. So I'm going to have a 13-ounce serving. Simon's going to have about a 15-ounce serving. He is a bigger human than I am, so he does need a little bit more calories. So we always try to account for that. I don't know if that's right. Making a mess. That's okay. We'll just eat it. Alright. Don't think I'm gonna get to 8 servings, but I think I could get to 6. So now that I know what we're gonna give myself and what we're gonna give Simon, do this again. I also really love using the Instant Pot because it is dishwasher safe. So I don't feel like scrubbing it. I can just soak it in the sink after I'm done cooking. And then I can put it in the dishwasher. That would be Simon's. Alright, so I have enough in here for one more. So what I think I'm going to do is I am just going to use this for my lunch today. Keep getting a pop-up. There we go. I'm going to use this for my lunch today, and then we have 6 meals prepped. So let me show you what the finished product looks like. Here we go. These are Simon's and these are mine. All right, so let me know if you have any questions, and hope you have a great day. Thank you.